Hello, Internet. You are my sanctuary and opportunity to share my thoughts. This cold weather is keeping me cooped up, so unfortunately, as a result, I have adopted a very similar sleep schedule to one like a bear. And so I get up. I've gotten up much later than I usually do. It's like a bear because I just keep in my covers and only get up when I have to go and eat. So what I've been doing to cope with the cold weather is I have been indulging in a little bit of cyberpunkish fiction. I recently discovered Battle Angel Alita through the new movie that's coming out that's directed by Robert Rodriguez. The first thing that struck me when I saw the trailer was how Alita just doesn't look right. She has huge eyes, and her fury face is terrifying in the worst ways. So I decided to give Battle Angel Alita a try. I subscribe to Comixology, so I find it a really good service for people who are new to comic books. I didn't get a chance to experience comic books when I was younger, so my iPad has become my gateway into a form of media I wouldn't normally experience. So I picked up Battle Angel Alita, and I was taken by the story like immediately. I love how she's first discovered by Ido and has a mysterious history that she's not partial to, and because she was recently reactivated by Ido and rebuilt, she discovers herself very similar to how a teenager would discover themselves, and her puppy love with the street thief kid I forget the name of is just adorable, and that's one of my criticisms I have in the Robert Rodriguez's trailer is he ages her up, but in the comic she always looks 14, 15, and it's interesting because you see her that way when you first start the series, but as the series progresses, she becomes much more jaded and angry and destructive, but her appearance is still very, very youthful. I'm wondering how the series is very action-packed from the get-go. She's like a bounty hunter in the first story arc, and then becomes like a rollerball superstar in the second story arc. But violence is pretty prevalent. It can be a turn-off to you if you're not really into that sort of thing. It's violent like Berserk is violent. Things fall apart and things explode, but I like it. I think Alita is the cutest little murder machine anybody's ever seen. But I worry that the Robert Rodriguez adaptation veers too close to the uncanny valley because she just doesn't look right. She looks less human than she should. In the comic book, she has very striking eyes, but I think that's why he decided to design her that way. But it's distracting. And second, I like how the action scenes are presented within the comic. They go from panel to panel in a very natural and action-heavy way. The line work really adds to how Alita flips around and contorts when she kicks somebody or punches somebody. That I think, and I fear, it will look silly in the movie adaptation. So we'll see. I'll probably end up seeing it unless like reviews come out and it's like laughably bad. I like that the trailer introduced me to Alita as a character, because she's a great character, and I highly recommend it to anyone who likes to read manga and likes cyberpunk. It just has a sense of style, and it definitely captures the passion that is cyberpunk for dirty science. And what I mean by dirty science is drugs, mad scientists thrown together, computer parts, all of that. Which leads me to the second piece of cyberpunk fiction I've been really enthused about recently, which is Neir Automata. I believe, for me, it's my game of the year. The music is beautiful. One of the most striking scenes involving the music is when the hacker character 9S is hacking into crazy robotic opera singer's interface. It switches from the orchestrated battle theme for the boss to a 8-bit rendition while you're hacking into her, which is really cool. I just put on the soundtrack while I read something a lot of the time. It's just that beautiful. The other two that really stick out to me as being my favorites are, if you play the game, the Carnival is striking, and also when you first discover Pascal's village is just so sweet. Listening to it would give you cavities, I swear, but it's adorable, and it still is one of my favorite themes. So I've been all about female protagonist androids, and I'm just so happy I get to say that sentence in a recording or a vlog or whatever this is turning out to be, because it's just badass. And I really dig Neir Automata's nods to technology. The way the upgrade system works is you only have a limited amount of memory that you can dedicate to your chipset, and your chipset is your upgrades. So the way I built my protagonist 9S is I put a bunch of chips into HP regeneration. I know I can't play as a glass cannon. I cannot take a bunch of punishment and deal a bunch of... Or I can't take a little punishment and deal a bunch of punishment. I just can't play that way. I end up dying over and over and over again. But I love... One thing that I love is when a video game forces you to fight something adorable. The main robots, that the androids are tasked with destroying to make Earth hospitable to mankind again, are just these adorable, round-faced robots with red eyes that will destroy you, but are really, really cute. I haven't found a figurine of the robots from Neir, but I would want to. It's very similar in its way to the turrets from Portal, that, you know, just say hello, how are you, or where'd you go. So cute things always mess with your mind, and it really, it's a roller coaster ride. It's very unpredictable, and it's done things that really turn what I expect on its head, and along with a really fun battle system. Neir styles itself similarly to, say, an action-heavy game like Devil May Cry or Bayonetta, but throw in smut games are something completely different, and I don't know anything about those. But shoot 'em up games, which are 2D ship shooters, which I really like, Neir has nods to that, in that you have to dodge many, many, many different types of bullets on the screen at one time, and I love that. I don't know, that's one of the oldest kinds of games that made me feel like a badass growing up. I never had the quickest thumbs for the combos in a fighting game. I could never get Ryu's Dragon Punch to work right, and I still can't. But in a shoot 'em up, I could dodge different bullet patterns and stuff and feel like a badass. So I'm glad that Neir really embraces that. There's lots of dodging, lots of bullets, and just some great general weirdness, and that's why it's my game of the year. All the characters are great. 9S is very different from Alita in that she's just all about the mission. She doesn't really care the how and why. That takes away from her focus. She only is worried about getting the mission done. And 9S is awesome in that he's inquisitive. He's still firmly focused on the mission too, but he'll ask questions beyond just, this is what we do, this is how we do it, and then we finish, and then we get to go home. And then I like that the most emotional robots in the home base where 9S and 2B come from, the operators are friggin' adorable, because they're the most emotional robots and are the most emotional androids, because they deal with the communication with the androids on the ground that are doing the ground missions, but they are super emotional and they get upset about stuff, and it leads to some really funny moments. One thing that really helps me with the winter blues is just reading something complex or playing a complex game, and I've been trying to figure out a really complex game called Caves of Qud. It's a roguelike, but the map's randomly generated if you go into dungeons or caves, and I think the world map's the same. But one thing that helps me just get away, and just in general, and the reason why I am so obsessed with RPGs is just the opportunity to create another character and sort of live beyond my bedroom, live beyond just me sitting. So one of the things that really struck me about Caves of Qud is just the crazy amount of character creation. It takes place in a future after humanity and post-apocalyptic, but even further in the future than Fallout. So one of the really cool things about the game is that the history that you discover in books and stuff is randomly generated, so you get these long, complicated stories just describing the scene. So it's a very weird setting. There's lots of mutants. One of my favorite types of things you can choose as a mutant is photosynthesis. So you can like make a Swamp Thing humanoid if you want. And the upside to the Swamp Thing humanoid is he doesn't need to eat food, which is a common part of these kind of games because starvation is a thing. So instead of having to worry about rations and stuff, you get your energy from the sun, but you can't stay in cave areas too long or you'll die because you need that sun to live. And it just has so many awesome choices like that. Take an extra arm or make your mutant with quills or something like that. I went with the standard human, and that's partially just because I liked Stephen King's The Gunslinger so much. So I made Roland as best I could. I gave him the sect that... There's different sects, and I forget what it's called, but the nano machine upgrades that he gets really help with his fingers and his pistol dexterity and stuff like that. So I tried to make him as much of that character, and just the whole surreal nature of the gunslinger I thought fit into this setting really well. Unfortunately, playing roguelikes, which is the kind of game that Caves of Qud is, it just kind of throws you in there and you have to figure out what things do. So I got hopelessly lost because I couldn't figure out how to open the world map up. I thought I did it correctly. Unfortunately for the more traditional roguelikes, like every button on the keyboard has a different function, like opening up your inventory or making sure you have your weapons equipped in the right hands, making sure you purified water. They're super complex, and part of the fun is just really not knowing what you're doing and dying in horrible ways. So what Roland did was, because I couldn't figure out how to open up the overworld map, was he ran around lost for a good period of time, ran into an anthropomorphic bear creature. I told the bear a secret knowledge it was looking for, and in return, the bear creature gave me his porridge recipe. But I couldn't use the porridge recipe because I was just wandering around blindly until I ran into a radioactive boar. So I'm going to have to look up a guide to how to play the game, even though that was kind of a great story in itself. If I'm ever going to make an actual Roland like he is in the book that doesn't just act like a person who wakes up in a world he doesn't know like 28 days later, I'm going to have to do a little research. So in short, play something complicated. Play something that you can escape with in your own personal way. And finally, I just want to say, keep stretching your boundaries, fellow overthinkers. And this is Forrest, and I wish you a good day.